Good evening, I'm Prasad and you're watching KiniNews. Shocked and bitterly disappointed, those are Najib's own words after his bid to introduce new evidence was thrown out by the federal court. Things certainly aren't looking good for the convicted politician, some call Bosku, as his main SRC appeal is set to begin.
The federal court will proceed to hear Najib Abdul Razak's main appeal to quash his conviction and sentencing in the 42 million ringgit SRC International corruption case. A 5-person bench unanimously dismissed Najib's application to adduce fresh evidence for the case today. The former finance minister has sought additional evidence to nullify his SRC conviction and sentencing. With the dismissal of the bid, the apex court is set to proceed with a hearing of Najib's main appeal to set aside his conviction over 1 count of abuse of power, 3 counts of money laundering, and 3 money laundering charges. The basis of Najib's fresh evidence bid was that SRC trial judge Mohd Nazlan Ghazali had a conflict of interest due to his previous tenure as general counsel at Maybank. It also centered on the commercial bank's purported role in the formation of SRC as well as a loan to the Sovereign Wealth Fund 1MDB. Formerly a subsidiary of 1MDB, SRC is now fully owned by the Minister of Finance Incorporated. On July 28, 2020, the Kuala Lumpur High Court found Najib guilty of the 7 criminal charges. On December 8 last year, the Court of Appeal upheld the lower court's ruling and dismissed Najib's appeal.
Not only has Najib failed to introduce new evidence, his legal team's bid to postpone the main appeal hearing was also dismissed. Speaking to reporters, Najib opened up about how all this made him feel.
Najib Abdul Razak has failed in his bid to postpone the federal court hearing of his SRC appeal for 3 or 4 months. However, the 5-person bench allowed for the hearing to begin on Thursday.
I am shocked and bitterly disappointed with the decision of the judges not to allow me to adduce additional evidence. I believe the additional evidence will clearly indicate that Justice Nazlan was heavily conflicted. He was very much aware of the 1MDB and SRC transactions and therefore had deep personal knowledge of these 2 entities.
The bench chaired by Chief Justice Tengku Maimun Tuan dismissed the postponement application raised by Defence Counsel Hisham Tehpo Take. Earlier, the bench had unanimously dismissed the former Prime Minister's bid to adduce fresh evidence in the 42 million ringgit SRC International corruption case. The federal court had then directed for the former Finance Minister's main SRC appeal to be heard. However, Hisham, who last month took over from Najib's previous team of lawyers, headed by Muhammad Shafi Abdullah, had sought for adjournment of today's hearing due to the need for more time to prepare for the brief. The apex court allowed adjournment of the hearing for this afternoon and tomorrow.
A former Navy chief has been charged today over the littoral combat ship scandal. Former high-ranking officer of Boosted Naval Shipyard, Ahmad Ramli Muhammad Noor, has been charged with criminal breach of trust. BNS was the contractor tasked to build 6 littoral combat ships for the Royal Malaysian Navy. The 78-year-old accused is the former BNS managing director and vice executive chairperson. He is charged with 3 counts of criminal breach of trust involving 21 million ringgit under Section 409 of the Penal Code. The CBT charge under Section 409 of the Penal Code carries a maximum jail term of 20 years and a fine upon conviction. Ramli appeared before the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court today and pleaded not guilty to all 3 charges read before Judge Susana Hussain. Earlier this month, the Public Accounts Committee in its report revealed a huge overrun in costs amounting 1.4 billion ringgit in the 9 billion ringgit LCS contract, with 6 billion ringgit paid as of 2020. However, none of the ships had been completed after 8 years. The project was started in 2014. Najib may be having a bad day, but that hasn't stopped him from taking aim at opposition leaders on social media. Today's target, Syed Saddiq.
Former Prime Minister Najib Abdul Razak today took a dig at Muda President Syed Saddiq Syed Abdul Rahman. Najib accused him of being hypocritical when it came to political frogs. This was in reaction to Syed Saddiq's guest appearance in Naim Wee's latest music video titled Katak, which poked fun at lawmakers who defect. Naim Wee's Katak video ended with a ceramah scene, where Syed Saddiq delivered a satirical speech on frogs being a national treasure. Taking to Facebook, Najib reminded Syed Saddiq that he had no qualms in accepting UMNO MPs who defected to Bersatu when he was a youth leader for the party. Najib said Syed Saddiq didn't dance with Naim Wee when many MPs from UMNO and other parties joined Bersatu back then. Najib also reminded Syed Saddiq that the latter had appointed one UMNO defector, Masjid Tanah MP Mas Ermiati Samsudin, as a government official who accompanied the Malaysian dodgeball contingent for a tournament in 2018. This incident took place on July 23, 2018, 3 weeks after Mas Ermiati left UMNO. At the time, she was an independent MP who backed the then Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad. Mas Ermiati eventually joined Bersatu in 2019. Syed Saddiq was sacked from Bersatu on May 28, 2020, after refusing to leave Harapan as per its leadership's decision.
On the surface, BN seems to be the popular kid in school everyone wants to be friends with. Several parties have applied to join the coalition, including PBM. However, none have been accepted so far. Parti Bangsa Malaysia is looking to pursue further negotiations with BN over its application to join the coalition. PBM Secretary General Nur Hizwan Ahmad noted that BN would require more time to deliberate before reaching a consensus on the admission of a new component party. He added that PBM is open to discussions with BN's Supreme Council if there are issues arising or matters that need to be cleared before a decision is made. He said PBM wants to join BN to bring political stability and harmony to Malaysia. Yesterday, BN Secretary General Zamri Abdul Kadir said that PBM's application, along with 5 other parties, was still under review. PBM holds 3 parliamentary seats, Ampang, Tebrau and Julau, held by Zuraida Kamarudin, Stephen Chung and Larry Sung respectively. Zuraida has held her Ampang seat for PKR since 2008 before joining Bersatu in 2020. She then abandoned Bersatu and joined PBM in May this year. PAS has drifted away from BN. This has put the Islamist Party in a rather awkward position.
PAS is known for switching partners, including cooperating with estranged former companions and foes whom it had denounced as infidels in the past. However, ties between PAS and UMNO have soured, with the Islamist Party leaning towards Bersatu. The party recently courted brickbats and sarcasm when PAS youth chief Ahmad Fadli Shari attempted to recruit Pakatan Harapan supporters in the party's mission to capture the BN-controlled state of Pahang. PKR Vice President Amiruddin Shari tweeted, quote, "Are you thinking of your ex?" This was in reference to PAS's previous collaboration with Harapan parties. Amiruddin, who is also Pahang PKR chairperson, made a counter-offer instead. He said Pahang PKR calls on PAS supporters in Pahang to back Harapan to topple BN. Meanwhile, UMNO Youth Chief Ashraf Wajdi Dusuki, taking PAS's polygamous track record into account, did not rule out the latter rejoining Harapan. He said for PAS to return to PKR DAP is not something impossible because they were together before based on the same objective to defeat UMNO. Ashraf also asked if PAS spiritual leader Hashim Jassin's recent call to find a solution to save the PAS-UMNO marriage was nothing more than a charade.
The Mara digital project started by Ismail Sabri back in 2015 still appears to be close to his heart. This is why, after a surprise visit to one of these centres earlier this week, he wants the project to be continued. Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob has instructed Mara to continue with the Mara digital project. He said this is to open up more opportunities for Bumiputra youth to get involved as IT entrepreneurs. He said several Mara digital centres have been established so far, namely in Shalam Selangor, Kuantan Pahang and Ipoh Perak. He added that other places had been identified for future centres across the country. However, Ismail Sabri said when Pakatan Harapan took over the government in 2018, the Mara Digital Initiative was shut down and new projects were discontinued. Earlier yesterday, the Prime Minister made a surprise visit to the Mara Digital Mall in Kuala Lumpur, accompanied by Rural Development Minister Matzir Khalid. The opening of Mara Digital as a communications and IT equipment sales centre in 2015 was spearheaded by Ismail Sabri, who was then the Rural and Regional Development Minister. And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube and Facebook for the latest news updates. If you'd like to support independent media, do consider subscribing to MalaysiaKini.com. I'm Prasad. Thank you for watching.